Hello, my name is Matt, and I'm here to introduce the first brief episode of the Information Illusion podcast. And I know what you're thinking is that, oh my God, another podcast? Do we really need another podcast? And of course, the answer from my perspective is yes. Yes, we do. And so here we go. So this is going to be the first one of what I hope will be many. And I realize that the amount of media that's available right now is oceanic. But I wanted to try this anyway and see how it goes. Maybe you out there, you're feeling that something is a little bit off. Something isn't quite right. Something doesn't feel real. Something seems surreal, like it's coming from someplace else, like it doesn't make any sense. Something's going on. Something's going on in a larger sphere, and we're a sphere within a sphere within a sphere, and things really get surreal. And a lot of that, I think, is because of all the conflicting information that we're getting. We get information from over here, we get information from over here. It doesn't jive, it doesn't make any sense, because this group over here is saying something that completely conflicts with this group over here, and they're talking about the same subject. So what's going on? Well, it just seems in general like the establishment media's reputation is fading away. And not only is the balance beam tipping politically, but at the same time, what was once revered as reliable information is now in the sphere of tabloid headlines for quick engagement. They'll make a story, they'll report on the story, and they really don't think much about it after 24 hours. It's already done its thing. It's already been released. It's already been commented on. It's already done what it needs to do, right? So they don't generally design these type of things for any kind of longevity. They're supposed to be digested and done with. And a lot of times I don't think they put in the amount of effort they need to make these things as accurate as they need to be. So, it's very confusing from this perspective, from the viewer and media consumer's perspective. And I think that's part of one of the reasons is why there's such a disconnect, a confusion, a feeling of something surreal is going on. Something doesn't feel right. What the hell's going on? Why is everyone angry and hate? What? And here's an interesting thing is that, okay, basically I'm talking about cable news now, right? So if you were to watch cable news, you'd think everyone's out to kill each other, right? But then I'll go to the store, and everyone's pretty nice. Checkout people are nice. You walk through the store, people say hi. I get commented on my tie-dye pants, which I am happy for. and I'm pretty surprised, because you think that everyone's at each other's throats. It just really isn't the case. It's not. This is kind of a ginned-up thing created by these media companies that are clinging desperately for survival. And you've probably heard this term thrown around, legacy media, right? Basically what that means, they're out of date. They're old. They're fading away, which I think is true. I think they've been fading away for a while now. In relevance, accuracy too. The thing is that when you have the resources like CNN, and you can send a journalist overseas, and bombs are going off, they can say, when a bomb goes off behind them.
That was a rather large explosion. Yeah. That occurred. Just look out here. I can't actually see where the impact of that was. It's actually set off a number of car alarms, but that was probably the largest explosion that we've heard just in the past. Really, in the past hour, there have been a number of explosions in the last hour or two, but that one was pretty loud.
Hey, look, a bomb went off. Okay, that's accurate. We can all see it. The bomb went off, the building blew up. The guy said the bomb went off and the building blew up. So, okay, that's accurate. But when you're talking about these sort of opinion pieces and these analyses of stories, those are curated and they're designed to speak to a certain audience, who these network news companies know exactly who their audience is, or they put in a lot of resources and spend a lot of money finding out who their audience is. Maybe it changes, maybe it comes and goes. Some people are here this day, some people come in and out, they move around. If you're talking about a network like MSNBC, they know exactly who their audience is. And they take their little news spoon and they feed it to their audience, and they give their audience exactly what they want. Otherwise they leave, and they don't want that. So they're gonna design their presentation to keep that audience coming back for more. There is an element of addiction going on when you're talking about this sort of thing, especially when they present the news or present you, quote, information. It's designed to elicit an emotional response from the audience. And that emotional response, after day after day after day, it becomes addictive. You know, you get a rush when they say a certain thing. You get a rush of emotion, and that feeds the dopamine, or you get angry, or whatever it is. But this up and down, it's like a wave. They'll start off with something, and then they'll make you mad, and then they'll say something that makes you, I totally agree with that. Oh, I feel it's good. And then they screw around and give you more stuff. So now, is this information that's even valuable or even accurate? I don't know. Who knows? The point is to retain that audience, to keep that audience coming back for more. That's what it's for. So we're talking about cable news now. So if you're looking on a TV and you got cable news on your TV, the only reason that show is on that TV coming at you is to make money. That's it. Because remember, these networks are owned by massive corporations, right? We'll keep with the example of MSNBC or NBC News, not just the cable section of NBC, but let's just say NBC News. They're owned by Comcast, the overall corporation. Comcast they run at least around here, all the cable. Not only do they own the news, but they deliver it too. Okay? So they of course have an interest in maintaining the audience watching that news. So you can say, well, okay, that just makes good business sense, right? It does make good business sense, but it's not necessarily helpful when we're trying to figure out what the hell's going on, okay? Which is very confusing. And so a lot of the sort of stress that we've been going through, at least I have, over the past few months, years, is this sort of disconnect between what you read or see or hear on the big corporate news media sources and what you experience out in the world. There's a big disconnect. I think that one of the points of why I wanted to make this podcast is to sort of explore some of that, talk about these different situations, sort of, I don't know, just openly talk about what the hell's going on, and that can include other things besides news. You can talk about movies too. The way, for example, the way movies are reviewed online, right? So let's take a movie reviewer that's, let's say a movie is released through the 20th Century Fox movie studio, okay? And let's say the reviewer, most likely, is going to be working for a subsidiary of that movie studio, of that big corporation. You think they're going to give that movie a bad review and drive customers away? No, they're not. They're going to give it a very positive review and say it's great. You should go see it. In fact, take your whole family to go see it. And you know what you should do? You should buy it. You should buy a hard copy of it. And you should tell everyone you know how great it is. So that's not a review, that's a commercial. So a lot of times when you see a movie review, really what you're looking at is a commercial. It's just disguised as a review because they might talk about a scene here or there, or mention whatever, or they're using a color palette that does this or that. Well, it's a commercial. And so I think there's a lot of that too, is people rely on this information to be accurate because they want to make a decision about something. Well, when the information is, manipulative, it's very discouraging. And when it happens time after time after time, people are going to migrate away from that stuff. And that's why I think a lot of these, what they call legacy media companies, are fading away. People are losing faith in them. They're not dependable. And so this transition period is a major shift right now. And there's a lot of panicking going on. Like, what are we going to do? How are we going to do this? Do we keep paying? Do we keep paying our anchors millions of dollars to come on here and basically perform? Because really, I think in a lot of cases, they are performing. They're actors. They're reading a script. They're performing. They say their lines with emphasis here or a de-emphasis here, or they might mock a certain thing or emphasize something else, and then they'll bring on somebody that's supposedly an expert, and they'll reinforce what they just said, right? Or maybe they want some conflict, so they'll bring in somebody to bring in a little conflict, throw some conflict out there, and get their audience kind of stressed out and uncertain, so they have to come back for more, and they play this up and down. Give them some pleasure, give them some stress, give them some fear, give them these other emotions to really stir them up. And but at the end of the show, there's not very much satisfaction, because really, maybe you've gotten some information that's accurate, but for the most part, you've been taken on a ride. You've gone on a roller coaster ride. You've gone on a carnival ride, and you feel, oh, I've just experienced something. Well, I better tune in tomorrow and see what's going on. And that's what they count on. They want you there. They want you engaged. And so so that their advertisers can have a specific person that they know exactly who it is, so that they know when they throw on a commercial that the person watching is more likely to buy this product, because they know the type of person that they're advertising to. And they pay a lot of money for this. And this has been the game for years and years and years and years. But it's obviously it's shifting now. These news networks, besides Fox, right, threw everything they possibly could at the public to try to influence the election, right? And it didn't work. Only the people that were going to vote, they already made their decision. It doesn't matter what the networks said or did. Everyone, for the most part, I think, voted the way they were going to anyway. So their influence is fading, and they are no longer as effective as they used to be in influencing the public to do a certain thing. So they're doing there's going to be a lot of research going on over the next couple of months, like what is going on? Why have we lost influence? What's happening? And there's a lot of reasons for that. And, for the most part, I'll be speculating about it, but there's a few different reasons. Obviously, the options are greater now. You can listen to someone talk for an hour, half hour without interruption. It's not, 2 or 3 4-minute segments broken up between commercial breaks. It's this block of half an hour, 20 minutes, whatever it is. And you can learn a lot about a person's views within that amount of time, especially when they're allowed to just say what they're going to say. And it's not, and that the host isn't going to steer them around to try to get a specific answer out of them that serves a certain purpose. And, the media consumption these days, it's the viewers and the readers are learning and realizing that, they've kind of been played for a long time. And I think that because the options are there now, they're thinking, okay, screw this. I'm done. And they've moved on. And there's a lot of moving on going. There's a lot of moving on going on. Anyway, the point of this podcast is sort of explore that, information illusion, right? The information you're getting is disguised, right? It's couched in sort of a disguise. It's not what it seems to be. It's making you feel a certain way. Why, you watch the thing and why am I feeling so tense? They're doing it on purpose. They want an emotional reaction because it keeps you addicted and coming back for more. That's my thesis anyway.
If there's one thing I know for sure, it's that I know nothing.
More about me. I am a documentary filmmaker. I made a couple movies. The first one I made was called Beyond the Barbed Wire, An Artist's View of the Holocaust. And the premise there was that the creative process results in healing, and that a lot of artwork was created in these death camps, work camps, slave camps. A lot of these people would scratch little drawings on the wall, or they would, one of the stories in the movie is that they would gather little hairs, pick hairs off of the SS officers' uniforms, form them into a brush, and this all had to be done super secret, or, they're not going to live very much longer, and they are going to use these things to express and to create and to use this creative energy just to make something. And this process is a healing process. And for a lot of the prisoners that did this, it gave them advantage. It gave them an extra energy, and it gave them, well, I guess a sort of sense of empowerment that they're doing something. Maybe they're doing something they weren't supposed to be doing, because in these death camps, the idea is to completely dehumanize, shut them down, dehumanize, crush, destroy. And the creative process is exactly the opposite of that. So I interviewed a man who was a tailor, and one of the reasons he survived the camp he was in is because he had a skill that was valuable to the Nazis. So he was able to mend clothing, he was able to all that. And so he had a skill that allowed him to stay alive, right? And so later on in life, after the war, he expressed a lot of these memories through his paintings. And they're very stunning paintings, I got to say. And I interviewed him, and very fascinating guy, incredible guy, amazing. Talking to him, it's the type of thing where I wish I could put the entire interview in there, but there was a lot of other elements I wanted to include in the film. That was my first film. It's on YouTube. You could check it out. Beyond the Barbed Wire, An Artist's View of the Holocaust. And then the second documentary I made is called I'm the Divider. And that is about immigration from Mexico into Arizona back in the Obama years. And in the Obama years, this is probably 2010, maybe 2000, right in there, 2009. I go down to Arizona to talk to the people involved in that situation there. And in that case, there was the Minutemen, who were mostly ex-military dudes, and they felt that it was their duty to set up this sort of encampment right on the border, what they would call observe and report. So they observed and reported any migrant that would be coming through. They said they didn't do anything. They would just get on the radio and call the Border Patrol or flash their spotlight on them to, whatever, let them know they were there. And the reason I found out about this is, of course, through, the news, because they would run news stories back then, just like they do now, about immigration. And I wanted to know what was going on. And then there was another group that had a different take on this whole thing called Humane Borders, which was I think they're still around. But back then they would put out water. Of course, this was in the desert in Arizona, very, very hot. Obviously, in the summer, we're talking about 100, 105, 110 degrees or more sometimes. So a lot of these migrants would die walking through the desert, trying to get across the border. And there's no infrastructure down there, and there's nothing. There's cactuses and sand and snakes and lots of other, nasties that could take you out, especially if you're not drinking water. So the idea is that they calculated, okay, from their point of entry, it takes a certain number of days to travel. And so let's say at the 2-day travel mark, they would set up a water tank, and they would erect a blue flag that would show the migrants that there's water here that they could go and drink and not die. And their whole premise was, let's take death out of the equation. They didn't necessarily agree that they, should be walking free across the border into the States. That wasn't the point. The point was to save lives. So that was their take. And the Minutemen's take was, these people are breaking the law. They're not being held accountable. They're not being prosecuted. We're going to take it upon ourselves to do what we can do to prevent them from coming across the border. So real briefly, I went down there and interviewed these Minutemen. I was a little nervous at first. I wasn't sure how they'd react to my being there. Turns out they were pretty nice. Now, okay, you may say, well, they're just being nice because there's a camera in their face. Maybe. All I can say is it was not what I was expecting. And that's actually really a good thing, because I like being surprised in these type of situations. I don't want it to be what I was expecting. I liked it that they were very honest and open and told me exactly what they thought about the whole situation. So, and then I talked to the other side, the Humane Borders people, and they were very nice too. So I was surprised. I was expecting conflict. I was expecting, not to get into a fight exactly, but I was expecting resistance, and I didn't get any at all. They were very open about it. Today, I think it's much more serious. The numbers are way higher than they were then. We're talking about a broader area. So the issue has not gone away. So now we're going to see, who knows what's going to happen after Trump gets inaugurated. I don't really know exactly how he's going to follow through with sealing the border and all that and what that looks like, but we're going to find out, obviously. Okay, that's a little bit about my background. So the reason I'm sort of doing a podcast is because it doesn't cost me any money. Like I went into debt making these movies. Here's a little piece of advice: don't fund your movie with your credit card. It's a bad idea, especially if you don't know you're going to make any money. Okay, so I went into debt funding these things on my own, and I'm like, well, okay, this isn't probably the best conceptualization of how to produce a film, but I wanted to do it. I could do it, and I did it. So now I want to kind of go back and sort of talk about these things. And of course, now we have a whole new universe of stuff to talk about. It's way different now. Essentially, it's the same, but it looks different, and it feels different. It feels more, I don't know, hostile. Something, like I said at the beginning, something feels off. Something's not quite right. And I think it's this sort of instinctual reaction to the information we're being fed, and we're thinking, at least a lot of people, something's not right. Something doesn't feel right. I don't know. My spidey sense is going off and telling me something's not what it should be. And I think that's the case. And a lot of what it is that what we're seeing and hearing right now, specifically I'm talking about cable news, but probably in other forums too, podcasts here, podcasts there, YouTubers, whatever it is, most of these media outlets, sources, reporters, opinion makers, talkers, they they want to make a career out of it too. Anyway, this is what I want to talk about. This is what I want to explore. And so I'm going to be joined by other voices as this thing goes along. And I think, we're going to try to sort of talk through this and come to some sort of realization as to, what we've been going through and what to expect in the future. Like I say, this is going to include news, talking about the news, talking about movies, talking about TV shows. Why are they making the type of shows they're making? Right now there's a lot of reboots, a lot of reruns, a lot of depending on brand name to try to squeeze out a few more bucks out of people off of a name that people recognize. They don't necessarily want to put the resources into making something new or take the risk to make something new with a new name that they can't, fall back on a name recognition. So there's a lot of that going on. So basically, media in general, the propagation of information in general is what we're going to be covering here on this podcast called Information Illusion. So again, I'd like you to follow along. This is the introductory episode. I'm going to have a couple different guys that I know, friends of mine, that are going to, we're going to talk, and we're going to have all sorts of different opinions, all sorts of different viewpoints on this stuff. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So I'd like you to come along and join along. And, I think you're going to enjoy what you hear. This podcast is probably going to be voice only. Because if I were to set up a camera, and if you were to see my gear and the way it's set up, you probably wouldn't be very impressed. So I think I'm just going to stick with the voice for now. I'm going to make some cool kind of trippy, illusionary looking video to go with the YouTube channel. And you can look that up. It's called Information Illusion on YouTube. You can just look it up, Information Illusion. And I'm going to put all this, in the show notes so you can, just copy and paste and look it up that way. And then on X, it's Inform Illusion, because someone got the name before I did. So Inform Illusion is going to be on X. And those are pretty much the only two I've set up right now. In the future, maybe I'll do some more. But for now, those are the two main ones for you to check out. So thank you for listening up until this point. I'm going to go eat now. I made myself a pork roast earlier, and it smells really good, sitting in the other room there in the kitchen. So I think I'm going to make some tacos, and I'm going to eat, and then I think I'll put this episode together, and next episode or two, we're just going to move on to other subjects revolving around this main topic. Probably hearing some other voices, and we'll go from there. So everyone, take care out there. I'll try to figure out some sort of closing line that I can use at the end of the show, but I don't have one yet. So for now, take care, and I'll be talking to you soon.